Then merged together with Tencor, and that's become known now as KLA Tencor. He first spent his years at Ampex Corporation, where he wrote the original plan and headed the team that introduced the VCR. By the way, that is not a Japanese introduction. That is an introduction in the U.S., and that happened in September of 1970. Please welcome Dick Elkus. Yeah, you look good. Better than you ever looked.
Okay. I was offered an opportunity to take care of a problem which I wasn't sure I knew how to do, but circumstances helped me out. 59 years ago, you started Engineering Week. At least I think I heard that. And 59 years ago, almost to the day, I told this girl I was going to marry her when I turned 21. Because I figured if I asked her, she'd say no. And when I turned 21, I married her, and she's sitting in the audience over there. So a few days ago, I got a letter from Paul Barron, really beautiful letter, congratulating me on this award, on this honor. And I wrote him back that when I look around, especially in this room, and see the level of talent and the contribution, it's a very humbling experience. So I want you to know without a question of a doubt, I feel truly honored to be here. First, I'd like to thank Steve Kang, last year's awardee and Chancellor of UC Merced, for nominating me. I actually tried to talk him out of it. Everything I tell you will be true. It may not sound that way, but it's true. I'd also like to thank several people who wrote letters for me, which I truly appreciate. Dr. Talat Hassan, who was a partner of mine for many years at Prometrics, is a very staunch backer of the Indian community here in Silicon Valley, became head of development for KLA Tencor. Ken Levy, who I think you all know, who founded KLA Tencor, was chairman for many, many years. Dr. Bernard Woodrow, I actually knew him in the 70s. I can't believe that we ever got older, let alone this old. In any case, he's a fairly renowned individual, as you all know, received the Alexander Graham Bell Award. There are several other people here I'd like to also recognize. Each one of them have made a tremendous contribution to the country and obviously to my life. Jim Bagley, who is chairman of Lam Research. I've known Jim for many years. He's put up with me for many years, which I truly appreciate. Obviously, Stan Meyer, who was very helpful to me when I wrote the book. I got advice and counsel, and he endorsed the back end of it in case anybody wants to read the book. George Scalise, head of SIA, who was equally helpful along the way. Dave Perloff, who was an associate just like Talat in helping all of us found Prometrics, which then became Tencor and became KLA Tencor. Dave received the SEMI Award for computerized mapping. So as you can see, the associates that I've had, the associations that I've had, have been truly remarkable and made a tremendous difference in my life. 40 years ago, it's amazing to me, but 40 years ago, 1970, I sat in a room just like this, and the number of people were the same. And I introduced this product called the VCR. At that point in time, there was no such thing as pre-recorded tape, and so when we introduced the product, we knew we had something that was interesting, but we weren't really sure where it was going to go. The place went wild. I mean, nobody had ever seen anything like that before. The difference in the audience was that instead of engineers, this was a group of investment bankers and the press, and they literally couldn't believe their eyes. And for a moment, and just a moment, it was one of the most exciting experiences of my life. When I introduced the product, the question then was, where are we going to make it? And so I was told by the CEO of Ampex to make a deal with the chairman of Toshiba Corporation. I wanted to make a deal with Motorola, Bob Galvin, which was right down the street, because they had consumer electronics experience, they manufactured displays, etc. It was a perfect fit. But Toshiba was willing to do most anything we wanted at that time, and so we made the deal with Toshiba. Subsequent to that time, as all of you know, video recording left the country, and the manufacture and development of that particular product became 100% Japanese and then Asian. The implication of that was really remarkable and highly ironic. When Ampex started and then developed in 1956 the video recording, the first practical video recorder, right down the street was a little place called Shockley Transistor, which included guys like Shockley and Bob Noyce and Gordon Moore, and you know all the players. And it turned out that the VCR at the end of the 80s represented a product that used more ICs than any other product on this earth, because at that point in time the PC really wasn't there. And as a result, because there were no video recorders manufactured in the United States, the transfer of a major portion of the semiconductor industry left the United States, went to Japan, and then the rest of Asia. Out of that, I learned a big lesson, and I used that lesson to write a book. I won't go through the whole book now, but I'd like to give you what one of those lessons was, which I think has some bearing on this evening. First, let me tell you a story that's in the book. You probably have heard it before. If you haven't and you want to remember it, you can go buy the book. And there were these two guys, and they were sitting together, and they're trying to figure out what was the most important product that had ever been developed. And one of them said, it's obviously the thermos. And the other guy said, why the thermos? And the first fellow said, well, when you put cold water in it, it keeps it cold. And when you put hot water in it, it keeps it hot, you know. And the other guy said, well, what's so terrific about that? He said, how does it know? Now, you have to think about that a while. Anyhow, the important point of what I'm trying to say is that everybody is looking for the killer app, okay? The lesson that I learned from the video recording, the VCR, the loss of the display industry that went with it, and all of the other products that went with it, the semiconductor industry, was that the real killer app is the infrastructure of products and markets, technologies, that over time begin to grow exponentially and, more importantly, converge. So if you take a look at the VCR that we had then, which was this big device and a large electronic camera with a Vidicon tube and a television set and whatever else, and now you look at an iPhone, you know, there's convergence, and you can imagine where it's going to go from there. So if you really think about that, the real killer app are those people, those engineers, those scientists that develop an infrastructure from which you can have truly inventions which are commercialized. Good ideas are a dime a dozen. Commercialized products, very difficult and immensely expensive. If you get off the track, you don't get back on again. You lose your destiny, you lose control of your life, you lose control of the nation. So the real killer app, at least from my standpoint, are the people, the engineers, the scientists that in fact develop this infrastructure. Don't worry so much about derivatives. What they're really worrying about is value-added products. That killer app sits in this room. That killer app is the future of this country. Thank you.